and hi everyone. My name is Anis Adila binti Nur Azali and I will present the introduction first. So in this chapter, I will explain the concept of consensus oriented. As we know, consensus oriented is one of the principle of the corporate governance. So what is consensus? Consensus derives from a Latin word which means a generally accepted opinion or decision among a group of people. So technically, it is a mechanism of non-violent conflict resolutions where all questions and concerns are raised and clarified until all voices of members are heard in the company to make the best possible decision for the company. So basically, there are variations among different groups regarding the degree of agreement necessary to finalize a group decision. So that is why consensus oriented is needed as a process that used by groups for generate widespread level of participation and agreement. So let's look into the aims of consensus. So there are four purposes of consensus. The first one is reaching an agreement. Since there are a lot of interest involved among the people that are looking for the same purpose, make it is difficult to decide the relevant ideas. So, by consensus adalah necessary sebabnya adalah untuk nak mengelakkan berlakunya sebarang perselisihan ataupun konflik ketika kita nak buat decision making tu. So the second one is bringing all the members together. Consensus also can create an opportunity to examine what everyone thinks about on a particular idea and what is their outlook in regards to the future. The third one is participation and the last one is the broad view. Broad view ni is the stakeholders also must take a part in consensus process, not only the executive. Okay, next, these are the benefits of consensus oriented. The first one is better decisions. Solutions address the concerns of all stakeholders. The second one is better process, where clear steps toward definitive solution in an efficient time frame, as a process include all the parties work together in implementing the resulting decisions. And the last one is better group. Group cohesion is strengthened through generating widespread agreement.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Afrina binti Muhammad Aidil. Okay, so now we proceed to the relevant dalil of consensus oriented in Islam. So firstly is Al-Quran in Surah Ali Imran verse 103. And hold firmly to the rope of Allah and do not be divided. So according to Imam Al-Zamakhshari, this verse refers to the state of the Arab Jahiliyah before the arrival of Islam. So there were hatreds among the tribes which often led to fight and bloodshed. So with the blessings of Islam, the Aus and Khazraj had successfully unified by the Prophet ﷺ. This verse tells us that we must be united in all matters in respect the difference of others until we can reach to an agreement. Okay, next is Surah An-Nisa verse 59. O believers, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those in authority among you. So based on this verse, apart from Al-Quran and also As-Sunnah, we also need to obey Ulil Amri. So according to Sheikh Muhammad Abdul, Ulil Amri means Ahlul Hali wal Aqad, which consists of ulama and also leaders who are trusted by the ummah to consult and also to decide on a particular matters that arise in a country. So if they have agreed on a matter, so it is an obligation for us to implement it as long as it does not contradict to the Sharia law. Okay, if something is disputed and a consensus is not reached, so we must return to Al-Quran and As-Sunnah. So since the decision made by Ulil Amri is based on consensus, so this verse shows us that Allah permit us to apply and also to follow consensus in decision making. Okay, the next legal evidence is from As-Sunnah. Abdul Rahman ibn Ghanam reported that the Prophet SAW said to Abu Bakar and Umar al-Khattab, if both of you agree in a matter, surely my opinion will never be different from that. So it clearly stated here that in this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ also support and practice the mandatory nature of decision. So if the companions are agreed on a matter, so Rasulullah ﷺ will accept and follow the decision made by them. Okay, next is Ibn Umar reported that the Prophet SAW said, Allah will never make my whole ummah unanimous on deviation. Allah's favors are with the majority, and whoever will get separate from majority, get separate in the hell. Sunan Tirmizi. Okay, based on this hadith, the Prophet SAW clearly stated here that Allah makes his ummah to only agree on the truth and protect them against error. So it is impossible for Muslims to agree on something that is wrong and also can bring destruction to them. And then this hadith also supports that the opinion of majority wins over the opinion of minority, and those who do not follow the majority will be punished by Allah. Okay, the last one is ijma'. The acceptance of ijma' sarih as one of the source of Islamic law by majority of Muslim scholars, especially the four main scholars, prove that consensus should be practiced in all matters. So, for example, Sayyidina Abu Bakar as-Siddiq, he did discussion with Muhajirin and Ansar and also other Sahabah to decide on the solution of the particular matters that arise at that time until they can reach an agreement among them.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Alwani binti Sahran and I'm going to present about Starbucks application of consensus management. Okay, Starbucks crisis started in 2007 to 2008 when the CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, warned about the commoditization of Starbucks in an internal memo to the various senior staff of Starbucks. Starbucks fast growing worried everyone as it brought more competitors like McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, and many more. This is because the actual purposes of Starbucks are no longer applicable as they started to sell CDs, DVDs, books, and T-shirts. Therefore, the reputations of Starbucks as a coffee lover started to affected. Daripada isu Starbucks ni, prices for food commodities start to increase yang menyebabkan company Starbucks ni terpaksa menaikkan diorang punya harga barangan. Next is consensus management of Starbucks. The first one is making decisions together as a part of family or organizations. Dalam sebuah organisasi ni, semua pihak tak kira lah daripada manager kepada staf bawahan adalah orang yang penting sebab masing-masing memainkan peranan untuk menstabilkan organisasi tersebut. Second is have an ability to handle the unusual situation, rest upon the organization's manager to make decision well. Okay, dalam poin yang kedua ni, kiranya kita boleh tengok bila orang appoint sesuatu pandangan tu, nampaklah dia tu ada ability ketat untuk handle any scenarios yang akan berlaku dalam permasalahan syarikat tersebut. Third is to reach an agreement that is favorable for everyone. Bila semua orang diberikan peluang untuk mengutarakan pandangan masing-masing, jadi tak ada salah faham lah bila decision tu dibuat sebab semua participate dalam decision process dan semua dah mengutarakan opinion masing-masing. Okay, if you guys can see the picture below, that is Tim Harnett, a professional group facilitator, mediator and family therapist from Santa Cruz. He is the one who developed consensus-oriented decision-making model. So, who can apply CODM? Actually, ramai je yang boleh apply CODM ni dalam diorang punya management ataupun organizations. Antaranya adalah organizers, board members, communities, workers, teachers, government, neighbours and students. Sebab apa diorang ni boleh apply CODM? Sebab diorang nak achieve the same goals dalam organisasi diorang. Lastly is the 7 steps in applying CODM. The first one is frame the topic, second is open discussion, third is identify underlying concerns, fourth is collaborative proposal development, fifth is choose a direction, sixth is synthesize a final proposal, and lastly is closure. Ketujuh-tujuh step ni adalah sangat penting untuk membuat decision making sebab diorang dah ambil kira daripada apa masalah yang diorang hadapi kepada apa aspek yang boleh diguna pakai untuk mengatasi masalah tersebut kepada keputusan akhir, keputusan muktamad untuk menentukan apa step yang akan dibuat untuk mengatasi masalah tersebut. Sekian daripada saya.
My name is Nur Ashkin binti Nordin, and today I'm going to present on arguments on consensus-oriented. So there will be two main points under this, which is definition and also consensus-oriented in decision making. Okay, so first one, definition. In Western, consensus literally means a generally accepted opinion or decision among a group of people. And consensus-oriented, according to the United Nations, is the mediation of the different interests in society to reach a broad consensus in society on what is in the best interest of the whole community and how this can be achieved. However, in Islamic perspective, consensus is ijma, which literally means determination and also unanimous agreement. So technically, ijma is one of the legal sources of Islamic law, which means the unanimous agreement of the mujtahidun of the Islamic community on any period following the demise of the Prophet Muhammad on any matter. And furthermore, during the regime of four caliphs, the practice of ijma was observed not only in religious matters but also in legal rulings and matters related to muamalat. This practice has been followed by the successors, tabi'in, and also tabi'in, and it became a continuing process accepted and exercised by the successive generations. Okay, so the second point is consensus in decision making. Okay, so traditionally, consensus was meant as a full and unanimous agreement. However, in practice, this definition is inconvenient because groups rarely arrive at such a consensus because of some members' inherent differences in value systems, the members' flexibility, and the consensus process may be too long. There are cases when the consensus process takes years to arrive at a decision. Okay, so from a practical point of view, consensus can be viewed not necessarily as a full and unanimous agreement. And so consensus aims at attaining the consent, not necessarily the agreement of the decision makers, by accommodating views of all parties involved to accomplish a decision that will yield. The full consent, however, does not mean that each decision maker is in agreement. Okay, moving on. So now we will see in the figure is the model in achieving consensus in group decision making. So firstly, when given a problem, they will be given a set of alternatives, or also known as solutions, to the decision makers. Then the decision makers will discuss among themselves and provide preferences or opinions. And then after that, the moderator or facilitator, or even called as chair of the meeting, will intervene and then measure whether they have achieved enough consensus or not. And if yes, then the solution that they have chosen will be proceed. But then if there's not enough consensus, then the moderator will give advice in the form of feedback mechanism to the decision makers, and then the whole routine will be repeated until they have achieved a solution, until they have achieved a consensus. Okay, now moving on to Islamic consensus in decision making. So in Islam, decision making should be based on 3 points. First one is knowledge and expertise. Second is shura, or consultation by using democratic means. And lastly is general social consensus, ijma mechanism. Okay, so consensus in a community can be achieved by shura or mutual consultation. This is because when a matter of public interest is put up for discussion and debate among a selected body of experts, then the practice of shura will allow the group of experts to arrive at a consensus acceptable to all individuals or groups involved in the decision-making process. And according to Al-Qaradawi, it is a matter of ijtihad to arrive at a consensus by offering a solution which is acceptable to all. And relying on the majority opinion in matters pertaining to the public interest is permissible as long as it does not contradict any of the established Sharia principles.
My name is Nuratira binti Ismaidi, and today I would like to present on the case analysis related to our principle, which is consensus oriented. Okay, so we choose Hubs and Company, or SHS Company, which is a company based in Singapore that offers wide-ranging services and has two of its major business, which are corrosion prevention (CP) and refinery petroleum (RP), and widely known in Singapore, also across Asia. Okay, so the overview of the case is starting in 2012, where Jimmy Tan, a co-founder and chairman of Tide Petroleum, or Tide, a wholly owned subsidiary of SHS, put in charge of SHS RP distribution, while Thomas Lim, founder and executive in SHS, headed the CP business arm. Here is the case elaboration and who is involved in this case. Okay, the party involved in this case is two main person, who is Thomas Lim as an executive chairman and Jimmy Tan as managing director at SHS. And why? Because there are differences of opinion arise between these two, who is Thomas Lim and Jimmy Tan. And what is that? Which is the conflict continue where Jimmy Tan pressured Thomas Lim to resign, and how it happened? Through resignation by Thomas Lim, followed by his counter attack until Jimmy Tan being removed at last. So let's take a look at the case chronology at the next slide. As for the chronology of the case, when in 2012, spark arise where Jimmy Tan objected Thomas Lim's intention, and tension widened when both had diverging opinions in usage of SHS cash. And in March 2013, things went worse to another boardroom row, and Jimmy Tan had threatened Thomas Lim to resign. And in April 2013, during AGM, Thomas Lim resigned and not seeking for re-election, and reduced his stakes along with the transferable of shareholdings to his son, Terence Lim. And in May 2013, Terence Lim filed a requisition to hold an EGM along with 30% supports from shareholders to remove Jimmy Tan. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, let's take a look what happened during the AGM. During the EGM, everything turned down for Jimmy Tan as he was being removed by 93% votes from the shareholders, and all the shareholders agreed to reappointed Thomas Lim as Executive Managing Director and Chairman in SHS. Not just that, the Executive Director and CEO of TED also announced resignation along with Jimmy Tan's removal. Effects of this dispute towards three stakeholders in this company. Firstly, effects to the company, where differences in opinion from managing directors will affect the growth and resulting in confusion of the company for the future, for the growth of the future's company. And secondly, effects to the shareholders, where conflict of interest between the managing directors could put the shareholders into this messy affair that could break their confidence. And lastly, effects to the employees, where dispute could dampen staff's morale. So, based on this case, can be seen that there are no principle of consensus oriented that have been implemented in SHS company, where the managing director always have differences in opinion in achieving an agreement, and this an absence of consensus oriented in achieving an agreement will lead to conflict of interest and arguments. So the alternative solutions, because this company is based in Singapore, so under Singapore Code stated that chairman and CEO should be separate person to ensure balanced roles for independent decision making. And under Singapore Company Act, in section 157A of the act stated that the management of a company is vested in the board of the directors. So I think that's all from me for today. Thank you.
As a conclusion, it is important for the company or an organization to implement consensus-oriented in decision-making. All the stakeholders also must take a part in the consensus process. And more importantly, by applying the principle of good governance, it will give assurance to the people that its governance will be free from corruption practices. So yeah, that's all from us. Thank you.